My mom said my wedding wasn't important, so I stopped treating her like my mom. Okay, buckle up. I'm 27F and I have a younger brother, Mike, 21M. Mike is what happens when you combine a spoiled child, a professional victim, and a man who has never once heard the word no without immediately filing an appeal. He is a complete mama's boy. Always has been. And my parents have always favored him. Not in a subtle way either. There was no, we love our children equally but differently. No. My mother basically saw Mike being born and went, oh, this is my life's purpose. I apparently became furniture. My dad still loved me. He really did. But he has always been a coward when it comes to my mother. He'd tell me privately that I was right. Then mom would walk into the room, and suddenly dad's spine would leave his body. Just whoosh. Gone. The only person who consistently stood up for me was my grandfather. He's 76, lives on the other side of the country, and has always been my biggest supporter. I remind him of my grandmother, his late wife, and we're extremely close. He also never liked Mike at all, which honestly should have been Mike's first warning sign. But Mike knows mom prefers him, and he loves it. He used to rub it in my face constantly. If he got something, he'd make sure I knew. If I accomplished something, he'd find a way to make it about himself. And if something went wrong, guess whose fault it was? Mine. Obviously. I lost count of how many times I got punished for things Mike did. He'd lie. I'd get blamed. I'd defend myself. I'd somehow get blamed for making things worse. You know that thing where parents say, why can't you just be the bigger person? Yeah. I was apparently born to be the bigger person. Mike was apparently born to be carried. His only real talent is football. And to be fair, he's genuinely good at it. He got a scholarship to a nice university out of state. Great. Good for him. I was happy for him at first. Then my parents started treating him like he'd personally cured cancer. They bought him a car for his 16th birthday. Then they bought him a house near his college when he started freshman year. Meanwhile, I was told the money they'd supposedly saved for my education had been used because of a fire. Years later, I discovered that wasn't true. The money hadn't disappeared. They'd simply saved it and later used it for Mike. So that was fun. Nothing says your parents love you quite like discovering your college. Fund was actually a future football player subsidy. Anyway, I went to public university. That's where I met Lucas. Lucas was my best friend for years before we started dating. He was also the first person who made me feel like maybe I wasn't crazy. Because when you grow up constantly being told that you're dramatic, difficult, jealous, selfish, sensitive, etc., you start wondering if maybe they're right. Spoiler, they weren't. Lucas and I eventually got together. We built a life. I made friends. I moved out. Both of us ended up doing really well in our careers. We have good salaries. We're independent. We have our own home. And most importantly, we have peace. Then Lucas proposed. About a year ago. We didn't post it everywhere. We're private, so I told my parents personally. Their response? That's nice. That's it. Just, that's nice. I actually waited for more. There wasn't more. So eventually I went, okay, and that was that. We planned a relatively simple wedding. Nothing insane. Just a nice ceremony, reception, friends, family, good food, music, dancing. Lucas convinced me to invite my parents and Mike. Again, I know, I'm aware. At this point, I was still apparently infected with the delusion that my family might one day act like a family. I sent them a traditional paper invitation. It very clearly said it was a wedding. I was notified it had been delivered. They never responded. Not my parents, not Mike, nobody. So I texted them, just checking. Did you receive the invitation? Nothing. Left on read. Okay. Fine. Whatever. A few weeks later, I was visiting my parents. My mother was talking about Mike. Of course. Mike had done this. Mike had done that. Mike's football. Mike's college. Mike's plans. Mike's friends. Mike's latest adventure. Mike. At some point, I tried talking about an event I was organizing. She interrupted me. I tried again. She interrupted me again. So I finally interrupted her. I told her I had an event coming up on a specific date and that the date couldn't be moved. She immediately said they couldn't attend. Why? Mike had a football game that day. They needed to be there. And I just stared at her. Because what was I supposed to say? Actually, Mom, that's my wedding. And I'd really appreciate it if you could possibly prioritize your daughter for approximately 4 hours. No, I didn't. I just said it was fine. They weren't missing anything important. And I left it there. Was it petty? Yes. Was it impulsive? Absolutely. Did I enjoy the tiny, evil little satisfaction of knowing they had just chosen Mike over me again? I am not proud of this. But yeah. A little. Okay, more than a little. Fast forward to the wedding. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Lucas was amazing. My friends were there. His family was there. My relatives who attended were there. And my grandfather walked me down the aisle. That man was crying. I was crying. Lucas was crying. My bridesmaids were crying. It was beautiful. And for once, nobody was talking about Mike, which was honestly refreshing. We ate. We danced. We laughed. We drank. We had an amazing time. Several relatives asked where my parents were. I told them. They had my brother's football game. And the looks I got were, oh. People started putting pieces together. My grandfather was furious, but he didn't ruin my wedding. He just quietly looked like he was mentally preparing several crimes. After the reception, Lucas and I left for our honeymoon. We went completely phone-free. No social media. No calls. No messages. Nothing. It was wonderful. Then we came home. I turned my phone on and immediately got hit by approximately 17 years of family dysfunction in notification form. My phone was basically screaming. Messages, missed calls, voicemails, more messages, most of them from Mom and Mike. Mike was calling me every nasty name he could think of. Apparently, one of my paternal aunts had posted wedding pictures on Facebook, and she'd written a caption, a very obvious caption, basically saying that some parents had chosen a football game over their daughter's wedding. And apparently the post went viral in my parents' little community. People started talking. People started asking questions. People started putting two and two together. And somehow, My parents were shocked that other people didn't think their behavior was adorable. My grandfather then went to their house, and apparently he absolutely destroyed my father. Not physically, verbally. He basically asked his son how he could possibly have missed his only daughter's wedding. My dad cried. And according to my relatives, that was his breaking point. He finally stood up to my mother. He told her he was considering divorce. And suddenly my mother started contacting me. At first she was angry, then insulting, then threatening, then crying, then begging, then crying again. It was basically an emotional subscription service. And the message underneath all of it was, how could you let me miss my daughter's wedding? And I'm sitting there thinking, you were invited. You just didn't come. But apparently, I'm the villain because I didn't grab her by the shoulders and scream, please attend my wedding. It is extremely important. I am your daughter. I will be wearing a dress. At this point, my family is divided. Most of my relatives are on my side. My mother's sisters and friends are telling me I've hurt her terribly. My maternal grandparents are telling me I need to forgive her because she's atoning. Her atonement, by the way, appears to consist of sending me guilt-tripping text messages. So, there's that. My friends are telling me to go no contact. Lucas agrees. And honestly, I'm starting to think they're right, because this isn't the first time I've tried. I've attempted to go low contact and no contact before. Every single time I was harassed. My mother, my brother, my maternal aunts, my maternal grandparents. Everyone. I was always told I was destroying the family. And eventually I'd come crawling back, because deep down I still wanted my parents to choose me, which is probably the saddest part of this entire thing, because even at 27, some stupid little part of me still wanted my mother to look at me and say, I'm proud of you. I think that's why I kept trying, even after everything, even after the graduations they missed, even after the lies. Even after the money, even after Mike tried breaking into my apartment and my mother defended him, I kept hoping. And now I'm exhausted. But then came the update. Lucas and I talked a lot, and he gave me a reality check. He said maybe the reason I kept going back wasn't because they deserved another chance. Maybe it was because I was still waiting for the childhood I never got. That hit me harder than I expected. So I decided to start therapy, and I decided I was done. I messaged my father. I told him if he wanted to talk, I'd meet him, my mother, and Mike in a neutral place. He agreed immediately. My father's siblings came too. Basically as damage control. We met at a park. My father looked awful. He'd clearly been crying. My mother looked like she'd been crying too, although I'm pretty sure at least half of that was anger. Mike looked annoyed. Naturally. I started talking. I told them everything. How they treated me, how they favored Mike, how much it hurt, how I'd spent my entire childhood feeling like the spare child. My mother kept trying to interrupt. My aunt shut her down every single time. Thank God for that woman. Eventually, I asked them the question I'd wanted answered for years. Why? My father cried. He couldn't answer. My mother seemed genuinely confused. And then she said it. She said she simply didn't like me. That's it. She just didn't like me. My brother, meanwhile, basically admitted that he liked the attention. He liked making me miserable. Like it was a hobby. At this point, I felt something inside me just snap. Then we talked about the wedding invitation. My parents claimed they'd never received it. I showed them the messages I'd sent. They insisted they hadn't seen those either. And then Mike admitted what he'd done. He had been at their house when the invitation arrived. He saw it. He ripped it up and threw it away. Then he deleted my messages from their phones. Apparently, he saw the wedding as less important than whatever they already had planned. I just stared at him. I genuinely couldn't speak for a few seconds. Then I asked, why? He shrugged. He literally shrugged. Like I'd asked why he'd eaten the last cookie. Lucas had to physically restrain himself from punching him. And honestly, I understood the impulse. But here's the thing. Even after that revelation, I wasn't suddenly thinking, oh, everything's fine, because the invitation being destroyed didn't erase the other 27 years. And then my mother made everything worse. She said she'd heard me talking about my wedding. She'd heard me discussing venues. She'd heard me talking about dresses. She just thought I was exaggerating. She thought I was trying to get her attention. She apparently believed Lucas didn't actually want to marry me. That man has been with me for years. We've built an entire life together. But sure, Mom decided I was hallucinating a fiancé for attention. At that point, I wanted to scream. Actually, I did scream. I told her to shut up and listen to me for once. Then another bomb dropped. There hadn't even been a football game. None. My parents lied. They knew my friends and Lucas don't follow football much, so they assumed we wouldn't check. Instead of coming to my wedding, they took Mike to Disneyland. Disneyland. I want everyone to appreciate the sheer stupidity of this. They missed their daughter's wedding for a fake football game because their adult son wanted a trip to Disneyland. I wish I were making this up. I really do. At that point, I completely lost it. I stood up. I told my father he was weak. I told him he'd spent his entire life hiding behind my mother. I told Mike he was a spoiled little parasite who had been babied so badly that he had no idea how to function without everyone catering to him. And my mother, oh boy, I unloaded. Years of anger, years of resentment. Everything I'd swallowed, everything I'd been told not to say, everything I'd been afraid to say. It all came out. I called her cruel. I called her pathetic. I told her she had spent my entire life making me feel unwanted. She stood up and started screaming at me. I screamed back. The park basically went silent. I don't even remember every word I said. I just remember talking and talking and talking. It was like opening a dam. Finally, I told all three of them I was done. I was disowning them. I didn't want them contacting me again. Then I walked away. Lucas, my Aunt Anna, and my Uncle Francis came with me. And about 5 minutes later, I had a panic attack because apparently my nervous system had decided that now was a good time to submit its resignation. Lucas drove. Anna helped me calm down. We eventually stopped in a parking lot until I could breathe normally again. I went home. I slept. And when I woke up, I knew I wasn't going back. I also gathered all the horrible messages my mother had sent me. Insults. Threats. Everything. I put them into a folder. Then I sent them to the woman who runs my mother's church, because my mother's church community is extremely tight-knit and extremely judgmental. I won't lie, that part was petty. Very petty. But after everything, I was tired of being the only person expected to protect her reputation. The fallout was immediate. The messages spread. People in the church found out. Then people in town found out. My mother was apparently devastated. My response? Good riddance. My maternal relatives continued sending me messages. I blocked them. My grandparents sent messages. Blocked. Mike sent more insults. Blocked. My mother sent another giant pity party message about how everyone hated her now and her marriage was falling apart. I replied, good riddance, then blocked her. My father sent me a long apology. He said he loved me. He said he'd failed me. He said he was going to divorce my mother regardless of what I decided. He wanted another chance, and maybe one day I will consider it, but not now, because he spent my entire childhood loving me only when loving me didn't cost him anything. He never stood up for me. He never protected me. And now that the consequences are finally hitting him, he's suddenly found his spine. I'm not obligated to be impressed. I told him I didn't want contact right now. He said he'd try to win me back. I told him I didn't believe him. Then I blocked him too. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe it's not. I don't know. For the first time in my life, I'm not making decisions based on what will make my parents happy. I'm making them based on what will make me okay. My grandfather is staying with us for a while. He's been amazing. He has also read some of your comments. He refuses to admit that the compliments have gone to his head. They absolutely have. Lucas is spoiling me. I'm starting therapy, and for once, my phone is quiet. No screaming, no guilt trips, no mom, no one telling me I'm selfish for wanting to be treated like a human being, just silent. And honestly, it's beautiful. So Reddit, I guess that's where I'm at. I don't know if I'll ever forgive my parents. I don't know if I'll ever speak to my father again. Maybe someday, maybe not. But I do know this. I spent 27 years trying to convince people to love me. I'm done. If someone has to be begged, guilted, chased, bribed, or emotionally blackmailed into showing up for you, they're not really showing up. And I am absolutely not spending the rest of my life standing at the door waiting for people who already decided not to come in. Oh, oopsie-dopsie indeed. So we're all just casually discovering that there wasn't even a football game? They went to Disneyland. They skipped their daughter's wedding because their 21-year-old son wanted a magical little vacation. I'm sorry, but at that point, Mike isn't the golden child anymore. He's the entire poultry section. And mom saying she thought OP was delusional about getting married? Girl, your daughter is discussing venues, dresses, invitations, and an actual fiancé. And your response is basically, cute fantasy, sweetheart. Then dad finally grows a spine after 27 years and immediately goes, well, actually, everything is mom's fault, sir. You don't get to spend decades standing silently beside the burning building and then act shocked when somebody asks why you brought marshmallows. OP definitely had some nuclear things to say in that park. But honestly, after finding out the invitation was shredded, the messages deleted, the football game was fake, and Disneyland was the actual destination, I think her brain simply hit the emergency eject button. And Grandpa is the MVP. That man crossed the country, walked his granddaughter down the aisle, read Reddit comments, and apparently has enough rage left over to keep the family in line. Protect Grandpa at all costs. Also, the fact that OP's final decision wasn't some elaborate revenge plot, but basically, I'm going to therapy and I'm done begging these people to love me, is probably the healthiest thing anyone in this entire family has done. And yeah. And Mike, my guy, you are 21. Please discover hobbies that don't involve ruining your sister's life. Maybe start with therapy, or Lego, anything.